This is a politics podcast. So this particular episode is about politics. And I'm unapologetic about this because I think it's important to sometimes just say things the way they are. And what I want to talk about is, in particular, the involvement of Elon Musk in American and increasingly European politics. And I want to just bring my opinion and also push back against one particular narrative, which is that somehow there is a narrative that big money is taking over politics, and that's bad for democracy. Now, the pushback is on several fronts. First, I want to say that big money has been around forever. Big money just means power, and politics is power. So, if for anybody that's a revelation after 250 years of democracy and another 5,000 years of, government, that power actually begets power, then, I'm sorry, then maybe you should go and read history books. In other words, money has always been after power because power is money and money is power. Second pushback I want to make is that actually Elon Musk, in my opinion, is far from detrimental to democracy. He is trying to save democracy, in particular with two initiatives. One initiative is he's fighting for free speech, which is, according to the founding fathers of the United States, according to the Constitution of the United States, the First Amendment of the Constitution, it's the absolute most important part of democracy. So anybody who's afraid of losing democracy should just go and read the manifesto of Elon Musk when it comes to free speech. Second, and that's more practical, he's actually engaged right now with DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, which has a specific goal, and that is to reduce the fourth branch of government, which is unelected bureaucrats doing whatever they want, taking the law in their own hands, and terrorizing sometimes, and if not terrorizing, then certainly manipulating society according to their own wishes. And sometimes it's even to nobody's wishes, and sometimes it's like a cancer that's just growing without any particular purpose. So what he's doing with Vivek Ramaswamy in conjunction is actually trying to get the power back to the people by reducing the fourth branch of government. And I think the third thing I want to say, and this is just my own personal opinion, which is that as an entrepreneur, as a wealth creator, Elon Musk is doing probably the most important part towards democracy, and that is he creates wealth, he opens opportunities, he gives other people, many other people, thousands if not tens of thousands of people, the chance to create their own narratives, to build their own careers, to learn new things. He's inspiring people all the time, everywhere, to to study, to understand things, to learn things, to be proficient at new areas, whether it's space travel, whether it's neuro interactive devices, electric cars, and AI. So before I want to discuss all these things in detail, but let me just first lean back for a second and just try to understand what is it we're talking about. What is democracy actually? So we're all so afraid of losing democracy. So in order to be afraid of losing something, I think we first need to understand what it is we're losing. So the way I understand democracy is a system where power is exchanged without violence. And that democracy, by the way, it's not just political power. For example, we have democracy in science, when certain knowledge is considered the knowledge of the day, and you change it with new knowledge, and that has actually real repercussions. People are not as important anymore. They don't get invited to conferences. They don't get to do the keynotes. Sometimes they might even lose their tenure, things like that. But it happens in science because science, the scientific process, is built around a democratic process of better ideas replace older ideas. We have the same in the financial markets, in the free economy. What we call the free market economy is nothing but the exchange of power without violence. If Tesla sells more cars than Mercedes, then they're more powerful in the car market in Germany. And that's, again, without violence. So that's what, it's a broad definition of democracy. It's a Popperian definition of democracy, in my opinion. It's the best and only definition of democracy, because everything else risks of getting sort of entangled in the nitty-gritty of, oh, well, it's procedure and we want outcomes and we don't want outcomes and we're not sure, because we can't judge a system like democracy by its outcome. Right? We can't say, well, Germany is a better democracy than Italy because whatever. Right? That's not the point. I think what we can say is that the system, that the institutions of Germany are better than the ones of Italy. But we can't say that democracy again is just exchange of power without violence. So let's leave it at that for a second. And I know there's a lot of caveats. People will say, yeah, but if you have money, you can manipulate the system. Yes, 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 and yes. So that's why I want to, get the first point. Yes, I mean, power has always been involved in U.S. politics. Actually, politics everywhere in the world. But take U.S. politics. Just watch an old movie. Let's say there's a really good show called Deadwood, which is about a Wild West town in Montana or Wyoming. And I just want to, draw the attention to a scene in the show when they make, I believe it's Wyoming actually, when they make Wyoming a state, right? So there's some people, they come from Washington, D.C., and they talk to people there in that area, in the territory, and they say, look, we're going to make this a state, and in order to make this happen, I want to have this much real estate. In other words, the congressman or whoever is trying to make this happen first gets a lot of land, then makes it a state, and of course becomes very rich because the land appreciates a lot. So this is just one anecdote which says that, look, it's always been like that power, money, all these things are related. So there's nothing new about that in American politics. The Democrats and the Republicans both actually get a lot of donations. In fact, the Democrats get a lot more donations than the Republicans at this point, because big corporate and a lot of rich billionaires are actually on the side of the Democrats. So if you're really concerned about Donald Trump in particular and the Republicans, then I think you should look twice, because it looks like money and the power of money and the sort of convolution of money with power is much more prevalent with the Democrats than it is with the Republicans. Now, let me get to the second point, which is the point that supposedly Elon Musk is bad for this particular administration is getting involved. Well, he's getting involved in two massive ways. One is the fight for free speech. Free speech is absolutely essential for a democracy, because you can't have a marketplace of ideas and a marketplace of politics and a marketplace of people to represent us if you're not free to say what you want. So if you're being coerced into speech, whether it's in a sort of Stalinistic type of way or in a wokeistic type of way, if you get canceled for saying the wrong thing, if people like Tim Walz take it upon themselves to decide what is hate speech and then censor that, if we have, or people like Jack Dorsey pretend to be Jesus, but then brutally censor people, kick them off their platform, people like the former head of YouTube, the woman, she's dead now. The name eludes me right now. She died of cancer, but she was unrelentlessly censoring stuff, and I believe that that's just not a good idea for democracy. And Musk is fighting against that, so that's already a sign that he's not just a threat to democracy, not just not a threat to democracy, but actually trying to save it. But more importantly, and in practical ways, he's also fighting tooth and nail to reduce the fourth branch of government together with Vivek Ramaswamy. I think that was the campaign that Vivek was running on, which I totally resonate with. Actually, I wasn't aware of it, how much regulatory power and how much unelected bureaucrats actually have power in the United States. And the same is happening in the EU here. So we can, I'm in Europe right now, so I have a little bit of more European lens of things, but it's the same thing. It's actually much worse. That's the reason why Europe is not working. That's the reason why the EU is not working. People are constantly discussing the benefits of the EU, and there's a lot of good things. But the regulatory branch and the unelected bureaucrats taking over power, that is just unbelievable. And that's, by the way, I'm in Switzerland right now. The reason Switzerland is less corrupt and Switzerland is the richest country in Europe is exactly because they have introduced checks and balances with direct democracy that reduce the power, in particular, of unelected bureaucrats doing what they want. So this is, again, not just is Musk not a threat? He's fighting tooth and nail to bring power back to the people, to have decisions made about laws and regulations by elected people and then executed by bureaucrats, and not having bureaucrats actually define the laws. And I think the third thing, again, I think as an entrepreneur and wealth creator, no matter who you are, whether you're the CEO of or the founder of Costco or Walmart or Chipotle or Tesla or Amazon, free markets, growth, wealth, freedom, all these things are related. You can't have a free economy, you can't have freedom and democracy without wealth. And the more wealth is created, the better. Now, you might say, well, but it's unequal. Yeah, of course, Musk has 400 billion and others don't. But the people who work for Tesla still are much, much better off than if there was no Tesla. And the customers of Tesla are much better off because they're getting value. They're getting a huge amount of value by being able to buy a car that can drive itself at a price that is lower than most other cars and has much better quality. So overall, that's, in my opinion, what's driving the democratic process. So it's freedom, it's growth, it's entrepreneurship, it's science, it's the ability to change and adapt, the necessity to change and adapt. All of these things are tightly related to the one thing, which is what we call democracy. And I think that's my pushback here is, instead of attacking Musk and other people like RFK Jr. or Vivek or whoever else is now part of that Trump administration, one of the things that actually, and this is another tangent here just to end the episode, but one of the things that is really striking to me is also the discrepancy between the narrative, which is that for some reason, with the election of Trump, we have elected like a tyrant, and that this particular tyrant is putting some of the smartest people around him. Like, if he was a tyrant, if he really wanted to rule the country on his own terms, he would not put people like Musk or Vivek or RFK Jr. Next to him and actually have them on the podiums with him, because he would want all the limelight for himself, and that's not what he's doing. So I think my hopes and my expectations are that actually Trump will pull what I call a Steve Jobs, which is, yeah, maybe his first term was problematic, but the second term will be very successful, the same way Steve Jobs in his first term with Apple wasn't exactly successful, but then the second term was immensely successful. Thank you.